people's generosity in across the country, but with regard to people in Portland, seems to be being used to help out criminals.
Pray tell, what might you be talking about?
Pray tell. Let's see. Before we show the screen, funds that were created to pay bail for people who were arrested while engaging in vandalism or assault or whatnot during the protests, and especially during the riots in Portland, have been, wait for it, abused by those receiving the bail money. Who would have thunk? Color me fucking shocked.
Color you fucking shocked. All right,
Yes.
yeah.
So here, just let's show the tweet before you start talking about it. From Defense Fund PDX, some folks think that bail funds can sustain themselves because most bail eventually gets refunded. In Portland, bail paid is returned to the person arrested, not the person that paid the bail. We have paid over $100,000 in bail since May. We've only had a few folks return their bail to us. If you've had your bail refunded, please consider sending it back to us if we paid it. You can return it via any of the methods found in the link in our profile. If you want to mail a check, DM for our mailing address. Gee, shocked. People who are arrested for criminal behavior and get their bail paid for them from the generosity of well-meaning liberals, I would think, mostly. But there's no expectation tied to it at the point that they actually show up for what would be their arraignment. Is that when you get your bail back? At whatever point in the process, you show up and you get your bail back, they get their bail back. It's not theirs, but they take it and they keep it because, of course, they do.
Yeah, so I should tell you, at one point during the portion of these riots that was attacking the courthouse downtown, I went down there, spiking around, and I saw two people who were part of this bail fund standing next to a sign about donating to it and utilizing it and all of this. And I was shocked because, the whole idea of a bail fund certainly intervenes in the incentive structures surrounding these riots in a way that immediately it was obvious, like, oh, what you're doing is you're dropping the cost of rioting. If you're arrested during a riot, I mean, the state abuses these penalties. So one of the things, let's leave rioting out of it for a moment. If you are protesting peacefully, you can be arrested for all kinds of violations, trespassing, protesting without a permit, all sorts of stuff.
Yes.
And it's a nightmare for people that it happens to. And, basically...
We had friends up in Olympia to whom this happened.
Oh, yeah. And there's a whole set of undeclared penalties that come in the form of bureaucracy that surrounds you getting your due process, right? So it's an actual nightmare. And in fact, the cops, when they're going to arrest people at a protest, will often give them a choice, right? They will say, do you want to be arrested? And the basic point is, if you don't want to be arrested, then you have to do what we say. And if you do want to be arrested, then don't do what we say, and we're about to arrest you, and then those penalties will kick in. And so anyway, it's a sort of unspoken rule under normal protesting. But in this case, you've got people who are rioting. You've got other people who are signaling their virtue. The riots are ostensibly about challenging racial inequity. Right? They're not, but they say they are. You've got people who want to advertise that they are in favor of racial equity, who are signaling this by donating to this fund to bail out these people who are really in this portrayal, misbehaving, it's civil disobedience, right? And by
Latter-day Thoreaus.
by lowering the penalty here, you are increasing the incentive to continue, right? Now, if these were really peaceful protests and they were really about injustice, that would be one thing. But in the context where they are actually attacking courthouses and trying to pick a fight with the cops and demonizing people and threatening to kill them and all of those things, it's preposterous to lower those costs. But what it turns out is that it's even worse than I thought by a lot, because what's really happening is that those who are donating to reduce the cost of being arrested are in effect paying people to engage in those behaviors that get you arrested. So what you have is people behaving in a destructive and violent way, whose bail is then being paid. They are freed, and when they get the money back, it comes to them. So it is a payment scheme for those who are behaving in these ways. And
what a perfect tell for whether or not these people actually believe in the values that they espouse. Most of these people will tell you that there's something akin to socialists,
yep,
or farther left than that, right? And the honorable, the important, the valuable part of socialism is returning that which belongs to the community, right? Is if you have a fund that is a pool that is designed to help people like you, and you have been helped in the past, you keep that pool alive by returning it to the pool when you are done. This is human decency 101, but it's certainly important if you espouse any kind of collectivist thinking, and anyone's failure to pay back that reveals them as exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
Individualistic
It's
at
bad
core.
faith.
Yeah.
It's bad faith. And at some level, this is subsidized anarchism. And when you ask yourself why it is that Portland has ongoing destruction of property and violence, then this is part of your answer, is that when you apply these principles locally in this ham-fisted way, what you do is you end up paying people to riot, which is an absurd thing to pay people for, right? It's the most absurd jobs program conceivable.
God.